Thanks for having me.
Do you now accept that offshore processing is at least legal?
Well, look, the government's done everything they can to put in place legislation to make it fit within the laws of the court. And
so it is legal?
It is. That's what the court has found. Whether it's right is a different matter. Whether it's okay to keep young children locked up indefinitely where they're subjected to harm and abuse, I find it very difficult to see how anyone can justify that.
Does this mean the attempts in your mind to pursue an end to offshore processing through the courts are no longer worthwhile?
No, I think there is still obviously cases, and there are cases still before the court. We've got a number of class actions around the damage and harm that has been done to people under Australia's watch inside the detention centre. They will come before the courts over the next few months. So the legal arguments for the protection of people are not going to stop. What happened here was that the government introduced laws to retrospectively undermine this particular case.
Getting to the moral, political argument, though, about offshore processing, we've heard from Malcolm Turnbull this afternoon, we've heard from Labor as well, that we need to maintain offshore processing to prevent a return to what we had before and all the boat arrivals. Do you accept that argument at all?
It's just such a morally bankrupt position to argue that in order to stop the boats, you have to create an environment where children are abused and assaulted. It's just, there has to be a better way than that. And
has it stopped the boats, though?
Well, has it? I mean, the government doesn't even report on those things. Of course, the numbers of people being brought to Australia have dropped, absolutely. We're turning them away at sea physically. We're sending the worst message possible by having abusive environments for children to deter others. And the argument, I heard Mark Dreyfus on AM this morning saying that people would be surprised that this was going on. It wasn't what they'd thought. The whole point of a deterrence policy is to create a harsh reality so that people are deterred from coming. You know, in a way, we shouldn't be surprised that the result of that is children being abused and people being broken. I don't believe that's the only option we have. I think we should be working to assess people's claims in Indonesia and Malaysia, helping to resettle those people safely, and above all else, having proper search and rescue out in the seas.
Richard Marles was speaking to us this afternoon, and he says even the Greens wouldn't take all those who want to come to Australia. You have to have a limit somewhere, you have to have a cut-off somewhere.
Yeah, so
that's right, isn't it?
Absolutely. You need to have...
It's a question about how many you're going to take in and out.
And what the process is that's put in place. At the moment, we have no process for dealing with the needs of people before they get to Australia. My point, and the Greens' argument, is let's look at what has worked in the past. Funding the assessment and helping the UN get through people's claims in Indonesia and Malaysia, resettling the people found to be refugees. Why do we push them into the hands of people smugglers only then to punish them?
But surely doing that, and I know we've had this debate before, is only going to make Indonesia a magnet for all those who want to come to Australia.
Well, you know, you look around the world and there are people in larger numbers than there's ever been needing protection. We have to be part of a process.
But why not stick with the process of selecting from the refugee camps, like we are with the Syrian refugees, those that Australia wants to take, those who are in genuine need of resettlement?
David, we can do that, and of course we should be doing that. But there are no refugee camps in Malaysia and Indonesia. That's why people are pushed into the hands of people smugglers. If we could create a system that was fair, that was efficient, that people knew this is where you go, and if you're found to be a refugee, you will be resettled somewhere. You'll be looked after. Most people don't want to have to put the lives of their children and their families into the hands of people smugglers to take that treacherous journey, only then to be locked up in an abusive condition on Nauru.
Just coming back to a couple of more immediate challenges, the government now has to decide whether to send back to Nauru the 267 people who are eligible to be returned. I'm sure you would argue they shouldn't be returned.
Absolutely, and it doesn't make any sense. They're here in Australia. A number of them, 37 of them, are babies who were born here. If
they stay, though, will others in Nauru and Manus Island find a medical reason to come to Australia?
Well, you know, this is a very good question, because the people who have been transferred here for medical reasons are the worst of the worst. You don't just get transferred to Australia because you've got one medical problem. Doctors have had to to beg and and time again in order to get every single one of those people off the island.
So it's not a question of self-harm gets you to Australia?
No, it's not at all, actually. These people, the children, the mothers, the individuals who are here are people who have been subjected to sexual assault, to rape, children who have been very severely harmed. They are the most vulnerable, and the doctors are urging the government more than anybody else, very loudly and bravely, I must say today, that every single one of these people has been transferred for a very serious medical reason, and the advice is not to send any of them back.
And right now the major parties, of course, aren't willing to take those who are found to be refugees in Nauru and Manus Island back here to Australia. The government is looking for third country options still, and Labor says it would do a better job of that and find credible third country options. What should be the third country permanent solution?
Look, this is pie in the sky stuff as far as I'm concerned. And the one country that offered to take 150 of these people was New Zealand, and Australia said no. And it's not about trying to resettle them, it's this continued idea that we have to punish these people. And the reality is, with the rest of the world dealing with such large numbers, much bigger than Australia has to deal with, it's going to be pretty hard to expect anybody to take this small number of people just so Australia can go, oh well, our problem's fixed.
Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks,
we will
David.
take